morning on the opening bell with Ken. I'm getting set up. I just decided to hop on here a moment ago and kind of start a spinoff of my morning show that I've been doing for a long time. My name's Ken Tracy, and I do a show called Coffee with Ken. I've been doing it for almost 6 years. It's me talking about life and kind of the ups and downs we have in life, and I'll talk about anything. I'll talk about uh, financial highs and lows, divorce, mental health, sobriety. I've had a lot of interesting experiences, I think, in my life. And one of those interesting experiences that people seem to have a lot of fascination with is my period where I was a stockbroker and or a day trader from like 1989 or 1990 to maybe 2002. And because of that, I've always been interested in the stock market when I was a little kid, and in investments and in money and in interest and what have you. When I was a little kid, I had two older brothers, and they one was 5 and one was 4 years older, so they were significantly older. And when I was like 7 years old, I would lend them money and charge them interest. And again, they were 11 and 12 at the time. I don't know how I had money. I mean, I don't even have money now, but I did when I was 7. And maybe I saved my allowance, which was probably like a quarter a week or something like that, and would lend them money and charge them fairly significant interest rates at the time. Uh, but anyway, so I've always been interested in the markets. I started, again, I went to college. I had a finance degree, whatever that means. Started trading in the mid to late 80s. I took a position, an option position with a buddy. I bought like two calls on Apple Computer in like 1987. We were headed off to spring break. We each had a few $100 in the bank. We went in and purchased two calls on Apple Computer shortly before we went on spring break. Apple Computer went up significantly while we were on spring break, and it ended up paying for our trip and then some. So I was kind of hooked at that point. Always liked gambling, always liked the markets, and I've almost been investing in the markets for 40 years or so. So I'm not always right, but I certainly have some opinions, and I've always been kind of curious about the markets and enjoyed watching the markets go up and down. And again, we've seen a lot of, it's funny, I almost used the word volatility in the markets over the last few days. And one thing that always kind of annoyed me as a stockbroker or just a casual watcher of CNBC is anytime the market went down, they would call it volatility. And volatility, by definition, doesn't mean a downward moving market. It could be up or it could be down, but they never called an upward moving market volatile. And I just always thought that was funny, and I almost used the word volatility as well just now. Because over the last several days, we've seen the market sell off a little bit. We've seen the S&P down 4 days in a row. And for the record, if I mention a stock quote and I'm wrong about the stock quote, I'm do your own research. Do your own research, I guess is what I'm saying. If I throw out a stock quote and say what something's trading at today, don't think you can buy or sell off my quotes because they're from memory and what I've last seen. So just do your own research. But again, we've seen the market sell off the last 4 days. We saw it opening up this morning, and it kind of had me wondering, is this what we used to call in the brokerage business a dead cat bounce? A dead cat bounce, and I'm sorry for those cat lovers are out there, means if you throw a dead cat off a tall enough building, it will bounce. And what we've seen is a market selling off sort of significantly to be over the last 4 days. And we're seeing it go up this morning, and it's up, the Dow's up a little, but the Nasdaq's up 150 points, and the S&P's up 30 or something like that. So it's up a little bit. And what I would anticipate later in the day is the market probably to sell off. And a little bit, when everybody's up on a position and everybody's feeling good, momentum can carry a stock or can carry the market or can carry whole asset classes higher because everybody's up on it and nobody's hurting and nobody's looking to get out. And over the last 3 years, we've seen the market move up almost without pause, where most of the major indexes, they haven't doubled, but they're up, uh, you know, 50, 60% over the last 3 years. And I was looking the other day at the QQQ, which is a exchange traded fund of the NASDAQ market. And in the last 6 months, it's up like 25%. And that was after a day or so of sell off. I will tell you what, having the QQQ's up 25% in the last 6 months is a really big move. And we're almost taking these moves for granted and almost expecting it. And again, I do a show every day. I got people hopping on that know I was in the markets, people saying, hey, you should get back into day trading. It's an easy way to make money. Let me tell you what, it is easy to be smart in the market when it goes up every day. And I hate to be one of these old codgers that's bearish on the market, but in my 40 years of watching the market, I don't know if I've ever seen it go up as consistently as it has over the last 3 years. I don't know if it's a rally because of changing political ties or post-COVID rally or an inflation rally or a hopefully interest rates are going down rally, but the market has gone up almost nonstop for 3 straight years. I had a viewer on my morning show the other day, and he was taking a huge position in Bitcoin. And if he's watching today, I apologize for bringing him up. But again, I kind of take the sum of everything I hear, all the information I hear, and make my own decisions based on that. And I'd recommend you do the same. But anyway, I had a viewer say he's just taken a huge position in Bitcoin. And in his mind, it was finally ready to go to the moon. And I'm going to be honest, I've been wrong on Bitcoin for 5 or 10 years. Since whenever I first started hearing about it, I always thought it was some phantom trading BS scam. And I still think it's a phantom trading BS scam. So know that. But anyway, he said it was finally ready to go to the moon. And here it is sitting at 100,000, roughly. It was at 98,000 or so. And 10 years ago, it might have been at 20. And it's gone from 20 to 100,000 over the last 10 years. And now he was ready for it to go to the moon. And I will tell you what, I've seen it in all sorts of different asset classes. I've seen it in real estate, in the dot-com boom. When I first got in the markets, biotech was really popular. There were a lot of biotech companies that were going crazy. We've seen it recently with the artificial intelligence. Anything that has anything to do with artificial intelligence goes straight up. Whenever you see a whole asset class running wild for a period of time, there's going to be a correction. And sometimes it's more than just a correction. Sometimes it's really, really significant. And it's a change of venue, if you will. And all the speculators are going to leave it. And I'll just bring up Bitcoin. Today I saw it was trading a week or so ago. It was at 100,000 or 98, 99,000. And today it was down to 85. No big deal. Not saying that's the end of the world. And again, what goes up must come down. But I looked at the chart real quickly. I don't think there's a chance in the world it's not going to 70,000. And I'll bet it goes a heck of a lot lower. So again, Brandon says Bitcoin is at 86,000, have a very large position in Bitcoin and have for the last 5 years. Then you're making a ton of money, Brandon. You're making a ton of money. If you've owned Bitcoin for the last 5 years, you're up on it big. And when you're up on it big, it gives you a sense of confidence, I'm sure, because you might own it at 10,000 or something like that. And at 86,000, you're still taking a lot of money and you might be buying more today. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that have been buying it over the last couple months around 100,000. And they're seeing it at 86,000 and going, crap, I'm losing money on this. I did not think people lost money on assets like Bitcoin because it's a Bitcoin. I tell you what, when you have people that are hurting on a position, they use it as an opportunity to get out anytime it rallies a little bit. And I don't know if that makes sense to you. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but if you see this, because you got people down on it, and you haven't had many people down on it over its entire duration. And I'm not here just pounding the tables on Bitcoin. What I would say is we're seeing the market open up a little bit today. I'll bet you the thing sells off. I was watching the opening bell on CNBC a little bit ago, and Jim Cramer was talking about Lowe's and about how Lowe's is such a great company and how much he loves the CEO, and that it was up today after a few months of being down, and that he thinks it's really turned around, and they're going to have a conference call, and he was saying how great the CEO is. So you didn't have to worry about the conference call because he always does great conference calls. And I don't know about Lowe's, and I don't know about the CEO or whether or not he does a great conference call. But the risk there in what Jim Cramer was saying is, since he always does great conference calls, you don't have to worry about this conference call. I will promise you, whatever you're talking about, if somebody's always done something awesome, so you don't even have to worry because they're always great, that is when you are at most risk, because that is when you have an opportunity to have a negative downside surprise. Maybe things aren't as bright, and I don't know if they are or not at Lowe's, but the chart doesn't look particularly good to me at all. At all. I wouldn't be surprised to see Lowe's sell off. And I think Lowe's, and again, I don't want to talk specific companies necessarily, but I bet you Lowe's and Home Depot and those companies are hurting a lot by the housing market sluggishness. Because I think when people buy new houses, yes, you can rehab an old house you might live in, but I think their peak activity is if you and your wife go out and buy a new house and want to put a deck on, or want to redo the kitchen, or want to do this or that. And I think the sluggish housing market's going to continue. And I think it'll impact companies like Lowe's and Home Depot. But again, I'm not trying to specifically talk about them. The only reason I brought it up is because Jim Cramer talked about how much he loves it. It is sitting right where it was 12 months ago. It's gone up and it's gone down and it's bounced up today. But I would be concerned with this rally in the market. I would be concerned if I was an owner of Bitcoin. NVIDIA is coming out with earnings today. I've been talking about that for a few months. And again, I'm usually early, but I'm usually right, and which is great if you're taking positions. But if you're buying options, as I have a tendency to do, guilty, being early is the equivalent of being wrong. And but anyway, NVIDIA is one of the leading benefactors of all the artificial intelligence stuff that we've had going on. And we've seen all the market rally and all the expectations of greatness for anything that has to do with artificial intelligence for at least the last 12 months, maybe longer. And I've seen it before. I've seen it in housing. I've seen it in dot-coms. I've seen it in biotechs. I've seen it in oil stocks. I've seen it in all sorts of crazy positions. And I'm concerned about the market. I think something's wrong. Something's broken. The housing market is screwed up. People aren't buying and selling homes. The stock market's at an all-time high, but nobody can afford to buy a house. Something has to give, and I just wanted to hop on and tell you my thoughts about the market, because I saw the market happening. And I think Opening Bell with Ken might be a fun spin-off because, again, I do have a lot of thoughts. I do have a lot of opinions. Do your own research. These are just my opinions. Don't trade on my words necessarily, although I think if you did, you do pretty well. But these are just my opinions. And I have strong opinions and big beliefs, and I think I know a thing or two about the markets from a ton of experience doing it. And okay, you watch a lot of trading streams, and most just cover the technical analysis. Very few speak of the macro and emotional habits of retail traders. Well, Brandon, if I had to say, I appreciate that comment. I too am more of a technical trader, and I think the technical analysis, which is, for anybody that doesn't know, it's kind of watching stocks trade. It's watching the charts and watching volume and watching the up and down movements. versus fundamental analysis is tearing apart a company and saying, hey, they have good earnings, they sell lumber, the lumber market's going to go up. So that's the difference between technical and fundamental analysis. But I think the emotional and the macro trends are an indication. I think what's cool about technical analysis, it tells you what the fundamentals of a company are going to be before the fundamentals are out there, are public. Because if you see a stock breaking down technically from a chart standpoint, usually there's some bad news coming out on it that the market doesn't officially know about, but somebody does. Oftentimes that somebody might be the insiders, and you'll find out after the fact that they've been dumping large blocks of the stock. Do I know about e-commerce? I mean, I know there's Amazon and eBay, if that's what you mean. I'm not an expert in e-commerce, and I do not buy and sell things online very often. So I certainly am not an expert on that. Fit from Fat says a reset to housing would require a construction freeze. This would have repercussions on economy as a whole. Reduction in population will show the bubble for what it is. I haven't even put my mind around the huge global thoughts about like population reduction and that could be a problem. But it's an interesting topic, and I appreciate you bringing it up. But I will say this, there's something broken in the housing market, and I don't know how it's going to play out. And it could be crazy up, it could be crazy down. But people can't afford to buy homes, yet home prices keep going higher. Something's got to give. So anyway, I just wanted to hop on real quick and share some thoughts on the market. I'm calling this Opening Bell with Ken. It is Wednesday morning. It's 8:52. I'll do it again whenever I have thoughts. I might come up with other fun names for it. But I think there's some people out there that like the markets, and I like the markets. So let's talk about them. If you're new to my page, please subscribe. I have a lot of fun. I post a lot of videos. I go live generally a couple times a day, and I enjoy doing it, and hopefully it provides some value. So I want to thank you so much for joining on Opening Bell with Ken. I hope you're having a great Wednesday morning. I hope you're feeling good. I hope you are loving yourself. I hope you're forgiving yourself. And as always, I hope to talk to you soon. Bye-bye.